Welcome to the Fryerning XL Big Carp Blog Part 7. So you're joining us inside. It is early August, but the weather has changed a fair bit and we've got massive rain clouds rolling over. So after taking a bit of a battering on previous blogs where we'd sat out in the rain, we thought we'd come inside and do it from the comfort of the amazing lodge, which always reminds me of Quint's shop and cabin in the film Jaws, full of old fishing artefacts. Love it in here. So welcome back. There's been lots and lots happening. July has been an incredible month, normally very, very slow on a lot of fisheries. We had that incredible spell of hot weather, obviously, which would have slowed things up normally, but not so on the main lake at Fryerning or on the Valley and Carpark Lakes, more of which I'll come to shortly. The catches on the main lake have been astronomical, really, probably down to the fact that the fish had a very, very successful spawning. Very, very healthy indications to see the big members of the A team, so to speak, dropping a lot of weight, dropping 10 pounds, some of them, through spawning, which is a really, really good thing to happen. It's a sure sign of a healthy fishery, and always points well to the longevity of the individual fish as well. What it also means, of course, is that once the fish have jettisoned all that spawn and eggs and milk, they go on a bit of a feeding binge. And throughout July, those massive carp that reside in the main lake out to my left here have been bulking themselves back up in quite a fashion. In fact, there's been more than 70 carp caught from the main lake in July. And to put that into perspective for you, there have been some years in the past where 70 fish, or the figure of 70 fish, has not been reached for an entire year. So 70 fish in a month, lots of big fish to show you as always. Sit back, grab a cuppa and enjoy. So the month of July kicked off on the main lake with Tommy Flower, very consistent angler on the main lake, been catching a lot of fish as you would have seen from previous blogs. He caught the magnificent netted fish at just over 39 pounds. Now that fish is one of the very, very biggest fish in the lake at the right time of the year, and that could put on over 10 pounds, maybe 12 pounds by the back end of the year. So it shows really how healthy these fish are by dropping their weight and then putting it back on. And of course, as they put it back on, that's when they get caught. And you can see just through the water clarity on the lake at the moment, it's really murked up, which is a sure indication that the fish in the main lake are on a huge feeding binge. Another angler who's been doing very well over the previous year is scientist guy Matt Naylor. The whinger, not really that keen on the name of that fish, but I know why Chris called it that, which always makes me laugh. Beautiful carp, which I've been very lucky enough to catch myself. Got beautiful little starburst, star-spangled scales on its back end, which you can't really see usually in photographs. You need to see it on the bank up close. Magnificent creature. Matt caught that at over 40 pounds, so well done to you, sir. On his return to the main lake, Matt Naylor followed up the whinger with two more of the very, very best and most sought after fish in the main lake. The historic stripe at over 30 pound, a magnificent old but very, very sought after main lake carp at just over 30 pounds. And then the nun at 41 3/4 pounds. So ticking those fish off very steadily indeed, sir. Well done to you. One member who's been around here for quite a long time but doesn't get an awful lot of time for fishing is Brad Phillips. Family man, busy work life and so on. Don't ever let that put you off, guys. If you're watching this, you don't need to have lots of time. You just need to make it work effectively for you when you're down at the lake. Brad Phillips certainly did that by catching 3 of the main lake fish in one session. During his session, Brad accounted for one of the most magnificent looking fish in the country, the amazing Bertie's Linear at over 40 pounds, Fourscale at over 38 pounds, and the Dalmatian at 31 pounds. Fantastic bit of fishing, mate. James Jeffcoat is an angler I know down from on the valley, where I bumped into him a couple of times in the spring. James, a very capable angler indeed, used to catch quite a few out of the valley, and I was sure that as soon as he moved up onto the main lake, it was going to start coming good for him. With just a 24-hour session at his disposal, James accounted for 3 very significant fish, topped by the Germ at £50 3 ounces, the Ziplin at £34, and another corking mirror just shy, I should say, of £30. Fantastic fishing on a very, very short session, putting your time to very good use. Well done, James. Now, July was a very, very kind month for Mitch Atwood. Now, the catch that Mitch amassed over just 48 hours of 18 carp, I think, is unparalleled in main lake history. I know the lake has changed and the fish are coming out very well, but 18 fish in just 48 hours is absolutely stupendous. Mitch kicked off the session with the Whinger at £39 14 ounces, the Emperor at £40, 4 scales at over £35, the Amazing Riddler at £34, the Dalmatian at over £30, and the Old and Magnificent Stripe. Mitch also caught a very rarely caught orange koi as well, and a whole host of other fish over £25. Mitch summed it up in the catch report perfectly by saying it was the best session ever. I'd have to agree with that, Mitch. 48 hours, 18 carp is phenomenal going. Just a little note on that orange koi. I caught that from the lodge myself in about 2014, and Chris came over with a cappuccino for me. He was in a good mood that day, and said that he couldn't remember the last time that fish ever got caught. So getting that as well, it's a real odd one, and it shows that you were doing something very right indeed. Well done, sir. Another serious bit of hauling of note is Paul Bissett, and Paul fished in the Royal Box in July, around about the middle of the month, and had, well, a catch that is very, very hard to rival really, because he caught several of the most sought after fish in the lake all in one session. The first and the most notable and the biggest was the £49 14 ounce formidable shape of the Germ, and Paul followed this up with the absolutely remarkable wood carving, one of the very, very best and rarest fish in the country, at just over £39, and then remarkably banked the Mommon as well at £42.5. Not content with that, Paul backed this up with an amazing looking £31 mirror and a common as well. A catch which is sure to go down in history, some of the rarest and biggest fish of all. Well done, Paul, fantastic angling on the main lake. David Wilson had a right netful full of carp, topped by a £35 magnificent specimen, and his uncle Gary chipped in with a £30 common. All of these fish have been caught, not surprisingly, over big quantities of bait, because as I mentioned earlier, these fish really are on the munch. There's too many notable captures to mention individually. Well done to all of you guys that follow in this roll call of honour. Here's a few more amazing fish from the main lake throughout July. Now moving down to the valley. Now the valley has been quieter in terms of angler footfall throughout July. Fish have been on a bit of a feed, putting some weight back on again after spawning. And it was my chosen destination for the first of what will hopefully be a series of session films that I'm going to make with hooked angling. We filmed a session down there for 48 hours, and I was fortunate enough to catch several fish, both from the bottom in the edge and off the surface. So by the time you guys see this, the film will be out and available to download from Hooked Angling, and you can see it on my various social media pages, Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. So whether or not you fish down at Fryerning, a film which I'm sure you will enjoy. If you do fish down at Fryerning, then have a look at the tactics, have a look at the fish. It will certainly get your appetite whetted for having to go down on the valley. Now, although I was fortunate enough to catch a number of fish live for the cameras during that session, the week after that session that we filmed was the hottest week of the year. In fact, I think we broke national temperatures with the Botanical Gardens in Cambridge recording a temperature of 38.7 or something like that, slightly higher than we'd ever had before. So it was the hottest week of the year, absolutely sweltering. And as most of you will know, being out in hot weather is one thing. Being in a bivvy is nigh on impossible. It seems to get superheated even hotter than the surrounding air. So not wanting to do any session fishing, I grabbed the floaters and a rod and a net, and I went down to the valley just for a few hours and did a bit of floater fishing. Managed to catch a couple of nice fish, really nice fish, one of which I got Scott to photograph. Scott was on hand, did me some lovely pictures of this long, lean, very dark looking linear, which I caught, I think, on the hottest day of the year. So lovely bit of surface action. While I was down there doing my filming, I bumped into Mark and Finn Richardson. Now these guys have been members for a long time. I remember them fishing on the Carpark Lake. Really, you couldn't meet two nicer guys. The son is a credit to the father, and it's great to see these two out fishing together and enjoying each other's company and the fishing. Whilst I was there, they fish up to 22 pounds. And after I left, I heard that Finn had a personal best of 26 pounds. Absolutely fantastic. Really made me happy to hear about that. So well done to both of you. Continuing down on the valley, Darren Bryan banked a magnificent 31.5 pound common and backed that up with a 23 pounder. Great brace of fish indeed. Darren fishes with his son Jake quite often, and together they've smashed their PBs down on the valley multiple times with several 30s coming along to their nets. Good work. As always, lots of notable catches, too many to mention, so feast your eyes on a few more magnificent fish from the valley. Moving over to the Carpark Lake, Luke Den came down as a guest of Simon Davey, fished for 24 hours and caught no less than 20 carp. Have a look at some of these, absolute pearlers. Now before we finish, it's very important to mention KHV. KHV has reared its ugly head across the Essex area throughout this summer, and CFAS have designated a number of sites. For anyone who doesn't know, KHV is one of the most lethal carp killing viruses out there. There have been cases where it has accounted for up to 99% mortality rate. We really have to do everything we can to protect ourselves and fisheries from this. So even taking frying out the question, it's down to you anglers to have the responsibility to thoroughly dry off your gear, disinfect it using a very good recommended product such as Steri 7. And if you're coming to frying, then that side of the equipment is taken care of for you. So down at Fryerning, the guys take biosecurity extremely seriously, and all of the lakes have containers which are holding all the equipment you need, from nets to slings and mats. This is to prevent the spread of disease, which is so important. The value and protection of the stock is everything. You know, if you haven't got the fish, you haven't got a fishery. So fair kudos to the guys at Fryerning in investing all this kit, and it needs to be taken responsibly by you guys to look after it. Shouldn't have to mention this, but please try and keep the gear clean. If you can, put it away dry. And if you get any breakages or damage or anything like that, be honest, put your hand up and just let the guys know. We've had a number of nets where the spreader blocks are broken. If you do happen to break a spreader block away from the pole, let Charlie or Scott or Chris know, and they can drill it out and repair it. Much better to know so that we can look after this gear. Please try and look after it yourselves. It's there for you to use and enjoy, and obviously to help protect the magnificent fish that Fryerning holds. Now before we go, just want to mention the absolutely exemplary water quality down at Fryerning. It's a spring-fed site and it's free of pollutants, pesticides, road runoff and all the things that you get from surrounding agriculture and industry on the majority of carp lakes around the country. We're out in the middle of the Essex countryside even, in the middle of nowhere, and the water quality is a sure factor in the growth and continued success of these fish. When you look in the margins, they're teeming with life. I think a large factor of that is down to the fact that the crayfish were removed by the guys a few years ago. People still ask me about this. So if you didn't know, Fryerning is a completely crayfish free zone and has been for some time. This has allowed the natural aquatic life to really thrive. The guys put in tubes of barley straw every year to try and improve the water quality and to stop any blooms and so on and so forth. And when they were taken out last month, they were absolutely riddled with freshwater shrimps, giant bloodworm and various other things. You can see a profusion of water boatmen and all sorts of things going on. And Chris came over to me while I was floater fishing a couple of weeks ago, and he said he had never seen the site so full of invertebrate life. It's absolutely crawling. So the huge amount of natural life, the water quality, the bait the guys are putting in, all of these things are just helping to put the fishery forward on ever increasing pace. The fish are getting bigger and bigger, and who knows what future blogs I will be telling you about what's been caught. I mean, there's going to be some surprises, no question about that. So I'm going to sign off now. Look forward to seeing you next month, which by then autumn will be verging on putting in an appearance. So look forward to seeing you then. Good luck in your fishing.